I'm not sure how I'm gonna do this video. Okay, let me tell you why. Because I am trying to think of a way to keep this video family friendly. You know, I try to keep my videos family friendly. I try to keep my channel family friendly. Yet, the words that come to mind when I think of this game are very much not. As you can see, this is one of those special, I don't need any notes videos. Because the Ottawa Charge lose 2-1 to the Minnesota referees. No, I'm not even going to say that they lost to the Frost. They didn't. We won. We beat Minnesota Frost. We lost to the referees. Don't give me this, oh, you're just one. No. Listen to me on this one. I have tried to be somebody who doesn't blame the refs. I think that that's absolute loser behavior. I think in order to blame the refs, a multitude of things need to be true. First off, it needs to be a close game. Even if the refs were completely one-sided, if you lose 6-1, you lost 6-1, buddy. Like, grow up. You lost, and you gotta deal with it. If you lose in a close game, you know, in an overtime game, then we move on to the next one. Were the calls one-sided? If the answer is yes, one team got calls that benefited them more than the other. Okay, now we're starting to get to territory. The next part is, were the calls fair? Right? This is the part where Minnesota fans will be like, yup, they weren't. I'm not necessarily going to argue about the penalties that were against us. What I'm going to argue is that when Minnesota did the same thing, it didn't get called. Yeah, Minnesota got 2 penalties called against them. They were so blatant that if they weren't called, the refs would have needed bodyguards to leave the building. Like, the most obvious trip and the most obvious interference, and it still took them a little long to put their hand up. But, you know, I digress. You know, I'm not going to analyze every detail about stuff like that. You know, they called it. That it was the right call. But I felt like for the Ottawa Charge, we got regular season referees, and for the Minnesota Frost, they got playoff referees. And a perfect example, look at our other overtime loss in the postseason. Against Montreal, the series, up 1-0, same situation. The first overtime, penalties got called, and then after that, the second, third, and fourth overtime, the refs swallowed their whistles. And both teams got away with a whole bunch. There were a bunch of penalties that they could have, honestly, probably should have called on Montreal. But I didn't sit there and be like, oh, well, if the refs had just, you know, not called, they called that penalty, we could have won. No, because we also got away with a bunch. We got away with a lot. They got away with a lot. They let the players play, and Montreal beat us, fair and square. They let Minnesota play. You know, Minnesota does something that, you know, is arguably, you know, an arguable penalty. No, let them play on. It's the playoffs. We do the same, you know, arguable. Oh, yeah, no, that's 2. Go to the box. Okay, so now we got the 3 things, but there's a 4th thing that I think is mandatory for you to blame the refs. There needs to be at least one call. You know, like, one point where you could point to that and say, like, that changed the game in a significant way. And yeah, they don't score 6 on 5. They don't. They do not score without that power play right at the end of the game. Which, by the way, also, the call happens when we get possession of the puck. So if there's no call, we get possession of the puck, 30-odd seconds left, and are you know, getting ready to clear. They don't score without that power play. This game ends 1-0 for Ottawa. And again, I'm not necessarily going to say that, oh, well, that shouldn't have been a penalty, but Minnesota got away with the same thing. The same thing, and it went uncalled. So where was our extra power plays? Our power plays weren't exactly phenomenal this game. They had 5 penalty kills. And we killed damn near every one of them off, except for the 6 on 4. It's absurd, but that's not the worst part. The worst part is who scored the tying and winning goal. Britta Curl, I said it in my last video, she shouldn't have been playing. She should have gotten suspended for the knee on knee. Mrzova didn't play this game, okay? She didn't. Britta Curl shouldn't have been allowed to step foot on the ice. And before you come at me and say, oh, you're just being harsh, if the knee on knee, if it was Mrzova who hit somebody like Zumwinkle, she would have gotten suspended. Don't say that that wouldn't have happened, because you know damn well it would have. I'd love to see that, right? Let's see what Minnesota's reaction would be, what their fans' reaction would be if Vanishova hits one of their star players, hits Coin Schofield or Zumwinkle knee on knee, and then the next game, she scores the game-tying and game-winning goal. I would love to see that reaction. I'm sure it would be civil. I'm sure they would say, oh, well, no, that was the right call. No! And you know that if that were to happen, Vanishova would be done for the series. She'd be gone. So, yeah, when all of that is added together, it's really hard for me to say, oh, well, tough loss, but Minnesota... No, they didn't earn it. They earned it? We outplayed them in every aspect, except reffing. The first period, I thought was, okay, I'll break the game. Oh, you want me to break the game down? Okay, first period, I actually thought Minnesota had a decent enough start, but then I thought, we got it back, and towards the end of the first, we were playing better. I thought we were the better team. I was like, I'll bring that momentum into the second period, which I felt they did. Some of the Minnesota power plays looked more like Ottawa power plays. We were thoroughly destroying them in the second, and that's the one thing I can say. You do need to score more than one goal a game. Our offense needs to deliver. We had over 30 shots. You got to score more than one goal. If there's one point that I will concede, and I will say, fair enough, it's that we can't be expecting Phillips to get a shutout every single night. If you want to win the cup, you need to score 2 goals every so often in the playoffs. And, we have not had a lot of games where we score 2 goals in regulation. Let's look. Okay, the first game we got 3 goals. Wow. I mean, amazing. For us, that might as well be 30. 2 goals in regulation. And then we had 1 goal in regulation. Then we had 2 goals in regulation. And then we had 1 goal in regulation, 2 goals including overtime. So of the 5 games, one did we score 3 goals. The other 4, we scored 1 or 2 goals in regulation. That's not going to win you very many hockey games, especially in the playoffs. I felt we played an Ottawa Charge style game, block shots, big saves, the kind of game that I don't think Minnesota's as comfortable in. I think they prefer an offensive battle. And while I do think in the long term, I think Phillips would beat Rooney in a goaltending battle. I know tonight Rooney took this round, but I do have a tough time seeing Rooney get, 2 out of 3 over Phillips. We go to Minnesota for the next 2 games. We have to win at least 1 just to force the series back to Ottawa. You can tell that there's a momentum shift. So like I said, second period ends. I thought the third period, Minnesota came out the gates. They were flying. They were starting to even things up in terms of the shot. Even though we had outshot them by 15, they were playing really well. They killed. That's when they got their second penalty of the game, was early in the third, and they had a decent enough kill. I thought our power play was good, but not great. And then they got a power play. This was their 4th of the game at that point. They had, I think, 1 in the first, 2 in the second. 2 in the third, and this is where, people were starting to get really upset. People were like, okay, come on, every little thing we do is getting called. Every little thing Vanishova does gets called. And again, it's not like they aren't penalties. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, what we got called for, we shouldn't have gotten called for. What I'm saying is there was a discrepancy between what we got called for and what they got called for. We got called for, everything that was a penalty. They got called for, the most blatant penalties. Anything kind of debatable they got away with, and we did not. And that's wherein the problem lies. The fact that Britta Curl who shouldn't have been playing this game in the first place, who should have been suspended last game, gets to play the hero. It's joke. It makes the league look awful. Do you know how bad the reffing needs to be? For me to be thankful for the NHL reffing, for me to be like, well, the NHL has its flaws, but at least it's not as bad as the PWHL was. Like, this is the type of game where if you were introducing a friend to the PWHL for the first time, it delegitimizes the league in their eyes. They're like, oh, that's the kind of reffing they have? Oh, that's amateur. And that's the part that pisses me off. Because the players sure aren't amateur. They are professional. They're the best in the world. The reffing should be, it doesn't have to be best in the world, but it should be, better than an OHL game, at least. I play in a rec league, okay? I play not hockey, just different sports. There's one ref. A lot happens that doesn't get called or whatever, And I can tell you that the reffing at my rec league was better than tonight. Like, it was awful. It was terrible. And it's a multitude of things. Again, if it was just, that call at the end of the game, yeah, it happens. Like, it happens. Sometimes there's a call that you might not agree with at the end of the game that the other team gets away with. It happens. You can't just blame that. Like, make the stops. Kill off 30 seconds. But also, they got all the calls and we didn't. Okay. Well, did they deserve more penalties? I counted at least 3 or 4 times that Minnesota could and frankly should have been called. Now, I say you can count 2 of those out. Whatever, fine. That's still 2 more penalties that I think, you can make a serious argument. That makes a significant difference. That first off makes penalties 5-4. If we still lose, if we don't score on any of those 2 power plays, then you can say, yeah, the penalties were pretty even. They got away with a little bit. I'm sure we got away with something. I'm sure if you combed through the entire game, you could find a few times we got away with stuff. It let Minnesota go away with a whole lot more. And then we got away with a whole lot less. And it cost us. And the player who was scoring those goals should have been suspended. So it paints a pretty nasty picture. Paints a pretty abysmal picture. And now we have to go to Minnesota. I mean, we have to win. At least one game, just to bring it back to Ottawa. Quite frankly, I'd like to win both. I'd really like to win both and to lift the cup in their own stadium. That would be especially sweet. But I can tell you this: if we lose in 5, that's illegitimate. Honestly, this is how bad it is. She shouldn't have been playing the game. So the third period, I thought Minnesota started pretty strong, but I felt their first power play actually sucked some wind out of their sails, and then we started pressing really hard. And then finally, Rebecca Leslie, from Nexner to Leslie, gets it to Jocelyn Larocque. She shoots, she scores, 1-0 Ottawa. Again, that should have been the game winner. That should have been it. And we were doing really good, killing off the 2.5 minutes left, and we were doing a really good job of killing the remaining time. And then, whoop! Another penalty for Ottawa for the 5th time this game. Oh, wow. Is it Vanishova again? Again, I don't want to harp on it, but Britta Curl, you want to say Vanishova is, she has an aggressive play style. I will admit that. I could understand why a Minnesota fan might just despise Vanishova. Difference is Vanishova gets called. When Vanishova does something, it gets called. Britta Curl, knee on knee. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. She shouldn't have been playing. She should not have been playing. And Vanishova, every little thing gets called. Again, if Vanishova does something suspendable, she gets suspended. I do not support wishing injury on players. I want to get that out of the way. There are some people that are like, I hope such and such and this and that hope happens to Curl. Oh, I hope a knee on knee happens to her. No, I don't. So this is why I don't want this to happen. But I just want you to close your eyes. Imagine there's a swap. I know I said it before, but Minnesota fans that are thinking I'm talking out of my, you know what. Remember the Brita Curl play on Rizova. Think of your favorite Frost player. Imagine if that Frost player is Rizova and Vanny Shova, not another player, not Hughes or Jenner or Clark. No, specifically Vanny Shova, the player who you know takes penalties, is aggressive, has gotten into a fight in a game. Imagine she plays the role of Brita Curl, and that exact same play plays out. Tell me with honesty, do you think that's a suspension? If your answer is, well, I mean, in that context, you see? And if not, well, then great. When Vanishova is given the clear to do that, don't complain. Don't be upset. And the reason why I say that, because again, I wish injury on nobody, is because I know that everyone knows that shouldn't happen. And the only way it would be worse is if she then scores in the next game, in the finals. This is a huge stain. And it shifts the momentum. It does. But, what happened last time we had just a deflating overtime loss? Quadruple overtime? After you come back. Under 5 minutes to go, down by 2, you come back, you force overtime, you go 4 overtimes, and you lose. That is, in my opinion, way more deflating than this loss. Like, you have all the excitement, all the energy. We scored a goal later in Game 2 against Montreal than we did in Game 2 against Minnesota. And we lost, and it was deflating. And the energy was gone. It was zapped. Game 3, we got it done. Game 4, we got it done. Now I get it. We're going to Minnesota, but also we're going to Minnesota. We are a very good away team. Like, very good. We've had a pretty decent away record. I get Minnesota has momentum. If there's one thing this team has been good at all season, it has been just ignoring the momentum that the other team has. Just being like, nah, new game. There's one thing that Carla's been preaching. It's been that. Like, okay, this game happened. I'm sure that's what she'll say. Whether or not she thought the reffing was good or not, it's behind us. Whether we win this game or lose this game, Game 3 is happening. On to Game 3. Just focus on that. It's a different game, different day. Focus on that. Focus on that game. Take this game. It stings a little bit. Shelve it. Say good experience. You know what? We killed a lot of penalties. We almost had this game won. We came this close. You know, if we tweak one or two things, if we just start to beat Rooney a little bit more, we got this. It took them, it's taken them a lot to legitimately beat Phillips. You know, a 6-on-4 and a gaff. You know, the overtime goal is the only one where I'm like, okay, like there was nothing like specific that you can point to that was like weird about it. You know, it was just she got beat. Sometimes that happens. It's tough to crack Phillips. We've consistently proven that. And I feel like who would blink first between Rooney and Phillips? I think it's Rooney. I think the one who's more likely to just, you know, have a bad game, give up 3 goals in 15 minutes. It's not like I have a hard time seeing that being playoff Phillips. You know? We got to get one game like that and we're back in it. It's still tied. I get it. It's not fun having to be the away team now. But we embraced it in Montreal, didn't we? And if we win just one game in Minnesota, all the momentum's on our side. If we just win one game, then we either end it in 4 or force it to 5. And put them back in a barn where, let's be honest, they got lucky tonight. Minnesota got lucky. Even a Frost fan will tell you that even if they agree with all the calls, even if they're a Frost fan who thinks that everything was legit and above board, to score that late, oh, you got away with it. You came this close to losing. You were like one icing non-call from costing you the game. Like we brought them to the brink. Again, similar to Montreal, we brought them to the brink. We gave them a rattle. We gave them a scare. That's how you got to go into this. that they struggled to beat us. They got some beneficial calls. Use that momentum. Use that mindset. Go into game 3 like, no, that's why we play 5, right? Because sometimes games like this happen. Sometimes weird things happen. And one team gets some beneficial calls and another team doesn't. Something goofy can happen. I've seen it happen in football, where there's one game where things just get a little goofy and your season's done because it's single elimination playoffs. Perfect example, Canada played Denmark today, same day. Denmark won in the quarterfinals, 2-1. Funny score. To eliminate Canada. Now, if we played a best of 5, Canada wins in 4. I think even Denmark knows this. And I honestly think they lose game 1 because they're like, great, we win 1 game, so got to do this 2 more times against Team Canada. The whole point of playing a multi-game series, a best of 5, first to 3 series, is that this can happen. You can lose a quadruple overtime game. You can have the reffing not benefit you. You let up a late one. And you can just wipe it and say, okay, that's 1 game. That's 1 game out of 3. We already are at 1. They won an away game. Just do the same. Literally just do the same thing. Both games were 2-1 overtime games. They're playing Ottawa Charge hockey. That's not the type of score that the Minnesota Frost is comfortable with. They are an offense-first team. They're a team that is a scoring threat. They had a game that was 7-5 for crying out loud. If we win game 3 7-5, I'll be happy and I will be terrified. Because I'll be like, oh, we played Minnesota Frost hockey. Like, we got lucky. We got away with 1. But, like, if Phillips lets 5 goals in, oh, that would not be good. Like, that would, even if we win, even if we score more than them, I'd be like, that's scary. That's not what I want to see. Like, she's a consistent above 900 goaltender. She's, only twice has she let in multiple goals in regulation, all playoffs. I'm mad because I think we should be up by 2, and feels like momentum is with Minnesota. It's with Minnesota. But also, when the momentum was supposed to be with Montreal, what did we do? Clean slate. We looked at the stuff that we did well, and we said, we got this. Use that mentality, and we'll be good. We got to get a win. We got to get a win. Saturday, Monday, both. And as always, go Ottawa.